Poverty is often misunderstood as a simple shortage of money, but in reality, it is a pattern of thinking that quietly shapes decisions long before income ever becomes an issue. It begins with beliefs absorbed in childhood, repeated in conversations, reinforced by environment, and accepted as truth without examination. These beliefs influence what feels possible, what feels risky, and what feels reserved for other people, creating invisible limits that govern behavior. When a person grows up hearing that money is scarce, that success is rare, or that wealth is only for the lucky or corrupt, those ideas become internal rules. Over time, these rules turn into expectations, and expectations shape outcomes. Even when opportunity appears, the mind trained in scarcity may hesitate, doubt, or dismiss it entirely. Not because the opportunity is flawed, but because it contradicts deeply held beliefs. A poverty mindset teaches survival instead of strategy. It prioritizes short-term relief over long-term growth, immediate comfort over future stability. This way of thinking often leads to decisions driven by urgency rather than intention, where choices are made to escape discomfort instead of to build something lasting. The focus remains on getting by rather than getting ahead. Unchallenged beliefs also influence self-worth. Many people raised in poverty subconsciously associate financial struggle with identity, believing that hardship is simply who they are. This belief makes improvement feel unnatural or even disloyal, as if success would separate them from their roots. As a result, growth can trigger guilt, fear, or self-sabotage instead of confidence. Language plays a powerful role in maintaining this mindset. Phrases like, "that's too expensive," "people like us don't do that," or "money doesn't grow on trees" may seem harmless, but they reinforce limitation. Over time, these words shape perception, training the mind to look for reasons why something cannot be done instead of exploring how it could be achieved. A poverty mindset also resists learning. When struggle becomes normalized, curiosity about better systems, financial education, or new skills may feel unnecessary or intimidating. There can be a quiet belief that learning won't change anything, which prevents individuals from seeking the very knowledge that could transform their situation. Ignorance then becomes a shield against disappointment. Fear is another key element passed down through generations. Fear of failure, fear of success, fear of judgment, and fear of loss all work together to keep people in familiar conditions. Even when current circumstances are painful, they are predictable, and predictability can feel safer than growth to a mind shaped by scarcity. Over time, these beliefs compound. One generation passes down habits, attitudes, and warnings, believing they are protecting the next. In reality, they may be transferring limitations disguised as wisdom. What began as caution becomes confinement, and what was once a response to hardship becomes a permanent way of life. Breaking free requires awareness before action. A person must first recognize that many of their financial struggles are rooted not in ability or effort, but in inherited assumptions. Questioning long-held beliefs can feel uncomfortable, but discomfort is often the first sign that growth is beginning. When beliefs are examined instead of accepted, new possibilities emerge. The moment someone realizes that poverty is learned, not destined, the foundation begins to shift. Thought patterns change, choices expand, and the cycle that once felt permanent starts to loosen its grip, making room for a completely different future to be built. Income does not increase simply because more hours are worked. It increases when the value of what you produce rises. Many people are taught to trade time for money, believing that longer hours automatically lead to better financial outcomes. This mindset limits earning potential because time is finite, and no matter how hard someone works, there are only so many hours available in a day. Value is created when a problem is solved, a need is met, or a result is delivered. The marketplace rewards outcomes, not effort. Two people can work the same number of hours, yet earn drastically different incomes because one creates a higher level of impact. The difference is not in exhaustion, but in usefulness and effectiveness. When income is tied to hours, growth becomes slow and restricted. Raises are incremental, and progress depends on permission rather than initiative. But when income is tied to value, Earning potential becomes flexible and scalable. As skills improve and solutions become more effective, income has room to expand without requiring more time. Increasing value often begins with developing rare or in-demand skills. Skills that save time, reduce pain, or increase results for others naturally command higher compensation. The more difficult a problem is to solve, and the fewer people who can solve it well, the greater the reward attached to that solution. Value also increases through leverage. One action can impact many people instead of just one. Systems, processes, products, and ideas allow effort to be multiplied beyond physical presence. This is why individuals who build platforms, businesses, or intellectual property are not limited by hourly constraints. Another component of value is responsibility. Those willing to carry greater responsibility often earn more because they influence outcomes on a larger scale. Making decisions, managing resources, and taking ownership of results all increase perceived and actual value. Responsibility attracts opportunity because it reduces risk for others. Value grows with clarity and focus. When energy is scattered across too many tasks, impact is diluted. Focusing on the activities that produce the greatest results creates disproportionate rewards. The marketplace recognizes precision far more than busyness. Income also reflects how well value is communicated. Many people create significant value but fail to articulate it. When results are clearly defined, measured, and presented, compensation aligns more accurately with contribution. Communication bridges the gap between effort and reward. As value increases, reliance on constant labor decreases. Instead of working harder, work becomes smarter and more intentional. Systems replace struggle, and strategy replaces strain. Income begins to reflect wisdom rather than weariness. Understanding that income follows value shifts behavior entirely. Time is no longer spent trying to do more, but trying to become more effective, more skilled, and more impactful, allowing financial growth to occur naturally. As contribution expands, financial growth does not start in a bank account, it starts in the mind. Before income ever changes, identity shapes behavior, and behavior determines results. The way a person sees themselves influences what they pursue, what they avoid, and what they believe is possible. Without a shift in self-image, financial improvement often feels temporary or unstable. Self-image acts like an internal thermostat. When income rises above what someone believes they deserve, discomfort can appear. This discomfort often leads to unconscious actions that bring finances back down to familiar levels. People may overspend, procrastinate, or make poor decisions, not because they lack intelligence, but because their identity has not caught up with their circumstances. What a person believes they deserve directly affects the standards they accept. If someone believes struggle is normal, they may tolerate underpayment, missed opportunities, or unfair exchanges. They may hesitate to ask for more, charge appropriately, or negotiate confidently, reinforcing the very limitations they wish to escape. Identity also determines consistency. Someone who sees themselves as capable, disciplined, and valuable is more likely to take repeated action even when results are slow. In contrast, a person with a weak self-image may start strong, but quit quickly, interpreting challenges as confirmation of inadequacy rather than part of the process. Many limiting identities are inherited rather than chosen. Messages absorbed from family, culture, or environment shape beliefs about money and worth. Over time, these messages become internal narratives that feel factual, even when they are outdated or inaccurate. Without examination, these narratives quietly control financial outcomes. Changing financial results requires redefining who you believe you are. This does not mean pretending or fantasizing, but intentionally aligning identity with growth. When someone begins to see themselves as a learner, a builder, or a problem solver, their decisions naturally shift toward actions that support financial expansion. Belief in deserving also influences risk tolerance. Those who feel worthy of success are more willing to invest in themselves, whether through education, tools, or opportunities. They see spending on growth as an investment rather than a gamble, which positions them to move forward instead of staying stuck. Self-image affects how people respond to setbacks. A strong identity interprets failure as feedback, while a fragile one interprets it as proof of limitation. This difference determines whether someone adapts and continues or retreats and rationalizes staying the same. As identity evolves, financial habits begin to change. Saving, investing, budgeting, and planning become expressions of self-respect rather than chores. Money is no longer treated as something unpredictable or hostile, but as a tool that responds to intention and structure. When beliefs about worth and capability expand, financial growth becomes sustainable. Income, opportunities, and confidence begin to align with a new internal standard, allowing progress to feel natural instead of forced, and success to be maintained rather than feared. Managing money is less about how much comes in and more about how well what comes in is handled. Many people assume financial stress will disappear with a higher income, but without discipline, more money simply creates bigger problems. Money magnifies habits, and if those habits are careless, emotional, or unstructured, increased income only accelerates instability. Discipline is the foundation of effective money management. It is the ability to delay gratification, to say no to unnecessary spending, and to prioritize long-term stability over short-term pleasure. Discipline creates consistency, and consistency is what turns income into progress instead of pressure. Without discipline, money slips away unnoticed, leaving confusion about where it all went. Intention gives money direction. Every dollar should have a purpose before it is spent, not after it is gone. When spending is intentional, money becomes a tool instead of a temptation. Intentionality replaces impulse with clarity, allowing financial decisions to support goals rather than undermine them. Stewardship is the mindset that money is something to be managed responsibly, not consumed carelessly. It involves respect for resources and an understanding that money represents time, effort, and opportunity. Treating money with stewardship means tracking it, protecting it, and using it wisely, regardless of how much or how little there is. Many people live without awareness of their financial patterns. They spend automatically, react emotionally, and avoid looking closely at their numbers. This avoidance creates anxiety and keeps them disconnected from reality. Awareness, however, brings control, and control is what allows money to work instead of dominate. Higher income without structure often leads to lifestyle inflation. As earnings increase, expenses rise to match them, leaving no meaningful improvement in financial security. Discipline interrupts this cycle by setting boundaries that income alone cannot provide. It creates space between earning more and spending more. Managing money well also requires planning for the future. Emergencies, opportunities, and transitions are inevitable, and preparation determines whether they become setbacks or stepping stones. Intentional saving and thoughtful allocation reduce stress and increase confidence when uncertainty arises. Stewardship includes making decisions based on values rather than appearances. Spending to impress others or maintain an image weakens financial foundations. When money choices align with personal priorities, financial behavior becomes consistent and sustainable, reducing internal conflict and regret. Money management improves when responsibility replaces blame. Instead of attributing struggles solely to external factors, disciplined individuals focus on what they can control. This shift empowers better decisions and reinforces the belief that progress is possible through consistent action. When discipline, intention, and stewards guide financial behavior, money becomes predictable and purposeful. Stability grows not because income is higher, but because decisions are wiser, habits are stronger, and resources are handled with care and consciousness over time. Financial growth begins long before numbers change because it is rooted in how a person sees themselves. Identity shapes behavior, and behavior shapes results. If someone identifies as a struggler, they will unconsciously make decisions that align with struggle. If they see themselves as capable, valuable, and deserving of abundance, their actions begin to reflect that belief, opening doors that were previously ignored or feared. Self-image acts like a thermostat for financial success. When income rises beyond what someone believes they deserve, discomfort sets in. This discomfort often leads to poor decisions, overspending, procrastination, or missed opportunities that bring income back down to a familiar level. Without changing self-image, financial progress struggles to stick. What you believe you deserve influences what you tolerate. If you believe your time has little value, you will exchange it cheaply. If you believe your contribution matters, you will protect your energy and choose opportunities that align with growth. This belief quietly determines whether someone negotiates, settles, or walks away. Many people carry invisible ceilings formed by past experiences, upbringing, and repeated failures. These ceilings are not real limits, but internal ones. They create a sense of this is as far as people like me go, which shapes expectations and effort. Growth slows not because of lack of opportunity, but because of lack of belief. Identity also affects consistency. Someone who sees themselves as disciplined will act disciplined even when motivation fades. Someone who identifies as financially irresponsible will reinforce that. Label through repeated behavior. The label becomes a self-fulfilling cycle that strengthens over time. Upgrading identity requires conscious effort. It means questioning old narratives and replacing them with intentional beliefs. This process can feel unnatural at first because the mind prefers familiarity, even when familiarity is limiting. But repetition of new thoughts slowly rewires perception and confidence. Self-image influences how people respond to setbacks. Those with a growth-oriented identity view mistakes as feedback. Those with a scarcity-based identity view mistakes as proof they are not meant for success. The same event produces completely different outcomes based on internal interpretation. Financial growth accelerates when self-worth is no longer tied to struggle. When success feels safe instead of threatening, opportunities are embraced rather than avoided. Decisions shift from defensive to strategic, allowing momentum to build naturally. Believing you deserve more does not create entitlement, it creates responsibility. It encourages preparation, learning, and action that align with higher standards. This belief fuels effort instead of replacing it. As identity evolves, financial behavior follows. Spending, saving, earning, and investing begin to reflect a person who expects progress rather than limitation, allowing income and opportunities to rise in alignment with internal belief. Managing money is not about how much comes in, but how intentionally it is handled. Many people believe that higher income will solve their financial problems, yet without discipline, increased earnings often lead to increased spending. The habits that create financial stress at a low income rarely disappear simply because the numbers get bigger. Discipline provides structure. It creates boundaries that protect money from impulse and emotion. Without discipline, M1. Why flows out just as quickly as it arrives, leaving no room for growth or security. Discipline is not restriction, but direction. Intention gives money purpose. Every dollar should have a job, whether it is to cover necessities, build security, or create future opportunity. When money lacks intention, it is easily wasted on temporary satisfaction that provides no lasting benefit. Stewardship changes the relationship with money entirely. Instead of seeing money as something to consume, it becomes something to manage responsibly. This mindset encourages thoughtful decisions and long-term thinking rather than short-term gratification. Many financial struggles are not caused by lack of income, but by lack of awareness. Tracking expenses, reviewing habits, and understanding cash flow reveal patterns that would otherwise go unnoticed. Awareness is the foundation of control. Emotional spending undermines financial stability. Buying to relieve stress, impress others, or escape boredom creates cycles of regret and pressure. Discipline interrupts these cycles by replacing emotion-driven choices with intentional ones. Managing money well builds confidence. Each responsible decision reinforces trust in oneself, making it easier to plan, save, and invest. Confidence grows not from how much is earned, but from how consistently money is handled. Stewardship also involves preparing for the future. Saving and investing are acts of respect toward tomorrow. They reduce fear and dependence by creating options and stability over time. When money is managed wisely, even modest income can create progress. Small, consistent actions compound into meaningful results. This proves that control matters more than quantity, as discipline, intention, and stewardship strengthen, money begins to serve rather than stress, allowing financial growth to emerge naturally from responsible habits. Wealth is rarely the result of sudden breakthroughs. It is most often the outcome of patience applied consistently over time. Those who rush often sabotage growth, while those who understand timing allow compounding to do its work. Patience prevents emotional decisions that derail long-term progress. Systems create reliability. Instead of relying on motivation or memory, systems automate positive behavior. Whether saving, investing, or building income streams, systems reduce friction and ensure consistency even when discipline fluctuates. Long-term thinking shifts focus from immediate rewards to sustainable outcomes. It encourages decisions that may feel uncomfortable now but beneficial later. This perspective separates those who accumulate wealth from those who repeatedly start over. Education provides clarity. Understanding how money works removes fear and guesswork. When people learn about finances, investing, and value creation, they stop relying on luck and start relying on strategy. Wealth multiplies when learning never stops. Markets change, opportunities evolve, and systems improve. Continuous education keeps thinking flexible and adaptive, allowing growth to continue instead of stagnate. Patience allows mistakes to become lessons rather than losses. Those who expect instant success are often discouraged by setbacks. Those who expect a journey use challenges as information to refine their approach. Systems protect progress during uncertainty. When income fluctuates or motivation dips, systems maintain momentum. This consistency allows wealth to grow quietly in the background without constant effort. Long-term thinkers resist distractions. They are less tempted by trends and shortcuts because they understand the cost of deviation. Focus becomes a powerful multiplier over time. Education also sharpens discernment. It helps distinguish between opportunities that build value and distractions that drain resources. This discernment preserves both time and capital. When patience, systems, long-term thinking, and education work together, wealth grows steadily and predictably, creating results that appear effortless only because the foundation was built intentionally over time. Breaking generational poverty begins with a conscious decision to grow beyond what feels familiar and comfortable. Comfort often disguises itself as safety, even when it keeps people trapped in cycles they no longer want. Choosing growth means willingly stepping into discomfort, uncertainty, and responsibility, understanding that temporary unease is the price of long-term transformation. Growth requires learning, and learning requires humility. Generational poverty often persists because information is avoided, ignored, or undervalued. When someone decides to learn new skills, financial principles, and ways of thinking, they interrupt patterns that have existed for decades. Education becomes a tool of liberation rather than an academic exercise. Emotion-driven decisions are one of the strongest chains holding people in poverty. Spending to feel better, avoiding difficult conversations, or making choices based on fear instead of logic reinforces short-term thinking. Breaking the cycle means pausing before reacting and choosing what serves the future rather than what soothes the present moment. Legacy-focused thinking shifts priorities dramatically. Instead of asking what feels good now, the question becomes what will matter years from now. Legacy is built when decisions are filtered through long-term impact, not instant gratification. This mindset transforms daily habits into building blocks for something larger than individual comfort. Learning to delay gratification is a critical skill in escaping generational poverty, sacrificing today for a bet. Tomorrow goes against instinct when resources feel scarce. Yet those who build wealth understand that patience is not deprivation, but strategy, and that waiting can be a powerful form of control. Choosing growth often means outgrowing old environments and conversations. Not everyone will understand the pursuit of improvement, and some may resist it. Breaking generational patterns sometimes requires emotional distance from limiting influences, even when those influences are familiar or well-intentioned. Education plays a role not just in acquiring information, but in reshaping perspective. Learning how systems work, how money moves, and how opportunities are created replaces superstition and guesswork with clarity. Knowledge reduces fear by replacing uncertainty with understanding. Comfort tends to preserve the status quo while growth demands change. Staying comfortable may feel peaceful, but it often guarantees repetition of the same struggles. Growth disrupts routines, challenges assumptions, and forces new behaviors that align with a different future. Legacy is not built in dramatic moments, but in consistent choices made when no one is watching. Every decision to learn instead of avoid, to invest instead of waste, and to plan instead of react slowly alters the trajectory of an entire family line. When growth, learning, and legacy become priorities, emotions no longer control direction. Feelings are acknowledged but not obeyed. Comfort is questioned rather than chased, and the future begins to take shape through intentional choices that steadily dismantle the cycle that once seemed unbreakable.